If this technology goes wrong, it can go quite wrong.
AGI.
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 AI will be smarter than all humans combined.
We may indeed have a serious employment crisis on our hands.
AGI, or Artificial General Intelligence. For years it seemed like science fiction, something far in the future that we wouldn't need to worry about. However, more and more experts in the field of AI are now very clear. Artificial General Intelligence is not decades away. It will be here soon.
I think, I would say probably like 3 to 5 years.
Who knows how many years? I tend to believe a fewer number of years. I think we're sort of in the 2 to 4 range.
It does make you think that we'll get there by 2026 or 2027.
He believes that we maybe, I guess by now, have 4 years left.
Yet we are not prepared. What will happen to the millions of jobs, from truck drivers to graphic designers, when there are machines that can perform the same tasks better, faster, cheaper and safer than humans? When people are laid off but still have bills to pay, how do we respond? What does it mean to live in a world after AGI?
I think ultimately we will have to have some kind of universal basic income. I don't think we're going to have a choice.
Since AI first emerged in the 1950s, achieving artificial general intelligence has always been the field's ultimate objective. It would be the technology to reshape humanity's future completely. Just a couple of years ago, many experts thought we would have to wait for multiple decades for real AGI. However, progress in AI is happening so quickly that they now have adjusted their expectations. And it's probably closer than most people realize.
I would say that we are less than 3 years from that point.
Definitely within the next 5 years.
To most people, somewhere between 2 to 5 years sounds like a relatively short time. So let's examine why most experts think such a short time is likely. So many of the leading researchers are making these claims because the models have improved incredibly quickly. Let's look at just the past couple of years. Between 2019 and 2023, we went from GPT-2, which could write simple sentences that mostly made sense, to GPT-4, which could solve math equations on a high level, write code and score higher on university exams than most students. In a short period of 4 years, we went from a model with the capabilities of a toddler to a model that functions as a brilliant college student. Most people were shocked about the Great Leap. However, a couple of the best researchers have already seen this coming, because they recognized the scaling laws. That is, AI becomes consistently better if you keep increasing certain variables, such as computational power and model size. These trends have accurately predicted the progress in AI we have seen thus far. The researchers who follow these trend lines believe we are at the beginning of another big leap in performance. Except this time, it could take us from a smart high schooler to expert level or PhD level abilities around 2027 or 2028. So let's take a look at these trends and how the AI models are getting improved. A decade ago, the largest AI models had computing resources roughly equivalent to a small university lab. However, today, companies are investing tens of billions of dollars in training larger and more powerful AI models. In just a handful of years, we have scaled the raw computing power behind AI by millions. Over the past couple of years, AI has proven itself more and more without progress slowing down. And that is why companies are willing to make even bigger bets and train with even more compute. Recently, OpenAI announced the Stargate project, which will be the most significant AI project yet. Over the next 4 years, they intend to invest $500 billion into building new AI infrastructure.
A new American company that will invest $500 billion at least in AI infrastructure in the United States and very quickly, moving very rapidly.
Beyond just adding more computing power to AI models, researchers are also finding ways to make them learn more efficiently. Every so often, a new training strategy comes along to get a better AI model for the same amount of computation. Teaching AI smarter methods is almost like discovering a new way to study. You are getting better results in half the time. Our training methods get to 100 times more effective every couple of years, and this kind of progress adds up. But most important of all, next to more computing power and algorithmic improvements, we actually start giving the models the tools they need. Even when a model is already quite smart in its raw form, we often tie its hands behind its back without actually realizing it. For instance, older AIs were forced to answer math problems immediately without writing down their steps, which meant they messed up simple calculations. Then, we let them think on paper by showing their step-by-step reasoning, and performance suddenly shot way up. More of these improvements, such as allowing models to look things up on the web, could potentially unlock huge hidden capabilities. It is important to note that a significant part of the leap towards AGI is not just a smarter chatbot, but a system that can genuinely function as a colleague or co-researcher. Once you give the models the opportunity to conduct in-depth research and use various tools and software, you get something that much more closely resembles a human. It would be able to onboard like a new employee, familiarizing itself with the company, researching information, creating long-term plans, and completing tasks entirely on its own. There is still an enormous amount of potential hidden behind the simple chatbot interface, and unlocking this gives rise to a drop-in remote worker who could quickly take over the work of countless people. So, taking a step back, some researchers were not surprised by this leap from GPT-2 to GPT-4 because it's essentially part of the same ongoing trend. A bit more than a decade ago, AI learned to recognize animals in photos. Next came GPT-2, which could form semi-plausible sentences, and then GPT-4 scores higher than most students on many standardized tests. Recently, new reasoning models came out, which make even fewer errors, and progress in AI has continued. If these trends continue like this, for the next couple of years, we will likely have AGI by 2027 or 2028. So you don't need to believe in science fiction for us to achieve AGI, you only need to trust that the trends will continue for another couple of years, and there are absolutely no signs of progress slowing down. Of course, there are uncertainties. However, the past 10 years have shown that whenever there was a supposed wall, the AI researchers always found a solution. And this is why these experts do everything they can to tell everyone that AGI is coming in a couple of years. Because they know that AGI won't just be another technology. A general intelligence will change the world as we know it today. Because if AI reaches a level at which it can do the tasks a human can, but then better, faster, cheaper and safer than humans, mass automation will be inevitable.
The amount of change we're going to see over the next 5 years, 10 years, will dwarf everything that's happened over the last 30. If you're in the Fortune 500, if you're an S&P 500 company, if you're in the Dow 30, right? If you're one of the bigger companies, you already know this. And in talking to a lot of these big companies, they know their workforces.
I want you to imagine two competing companies. The first is a typical e-commerce fulfillment center as we know it today. People walk the aisles, scan barcodes and pick and pack the orders. Therefore, the quality and speed depend entirely on their energy and focus. The second company, however, integrates AI. Robots move through the aisles, guided by a central intelligence. They never tire, never pause for lunch, and they are never ill. This company does the job with perfect accuracy. It runs 24/7, has no labor costs, and therefore can lower prices. The first company just cannot compete against this combination of quality, speed, and lower price. Therefore, if they do not automate too, it will disappear. In the end, there are a couple of things we know for sure. Companies seek maximum profit at minimum costs. AGI drastically reduces cost by replacing human labor, and companies that do not automate become uncompetitive and won't survive. Therefore, companies don't really have a choice. Automation becomes economically mandatory, not optional. Even if they want to keep humans, they can't stay competitive with other companies that do automate with AI. Some individuals who think this isn't desirable might say, well, let's make some federal laws that regulate and prevent AI automation. I will come back to the question of whether this is desirable or not, but despite that, it won't be stoppable. Because the same scenario we have seen between companies also applies between nations. So let's say the United States created laws against AI automation, then countries that use AI automation will gain a competitive advantage and countries that do not innovate will be left behind. We have seen this already in the past with the Industrial Revolution. Some countries embraced it and got ahead, and the ones who did not fell behind. And the same will be true this time. Technological progress really can't be stopped, because if there is a more efficient way to get the same outcome, markets will always favor that method. And this time, more efficient means without humans. The AGI revolution will be fundamentally different compared to all other revolutions we have seen before. The reason why humans currently sit at the top of the hierarchy is not because we are the fastest, the largest or the strongest. We are at the top because we are the smartest. All the inventions we have made, from the agricultural revolution to the industrial revolution, have ensured we have had to exert less physical effort. But human intelligence has always been needed this far. Now that AI systems are performing these cognitive tasks increasingly efficiently, we are no longer the only intelligent beings anymore. And we are just at the beginning. Many people have already been replaced, but that's nothing compared to what's yet to come. Of course, many people are still skeptical about the number of jobs that will be replaced. They think that AI will only take on a couple of roles, such as translators, graphic designers, and customer service. But because of its true generality, if AGI gets trained right, there's virtually no profession it cannot learn to do. Accountants, lawyers, journalists, even radiologists, all of them are within its reach. That is what makes AGI fundamentally different from all other technologies. Take for example the financial sector. It has always been filled with highly talented individuals at calculating and analyzing numbers. What used to take days of hard work for a highly trained analyst is now done by AI in a fraction of the time. The same is happening in software development. AI is already generating code much faster and often much more accurately compared to human programmers.
Getting good at programming very fast. As I saw on, typical real-world programming tasks, models have gone from 3% in January of this year to 50% in October of this year.
Ultimately, there is not a single job that AGI can't possibly learn. Jobs that need a physical component can now be done through robots with a lot of precision. During medical operations, one might expect that surgeons are irreplaceable, but robotics makes extremely precise operations possible. Complex operations can be performed with unparalleled precision because of the combination of AI and robotics, which in turn significantly decreases the number of mistakes and complications that occur. It is not difficult to imagine a day when a robot surgeon executes specific operations entirely on its own. One of the frontier AI robotics companies is Figure. Here is a short clip of 2 of their robots that perform quick tasks on a single neural net. This is quite impressive already. Just 2 weeks ago they released a new video introducing natural walking. It is not there yet, but it's not difficult to see where this is going. And they are not alone. Other robotics companies such as Tesla and Boston Dynamics are innovating rapidly too. Of course, nobody knows precisely how things will unfold. There might be a scenario in which at first, licensed professionals like pilots and doctors resist automation due to regulation. They might survive in the short term, because in these cases, there are trust issues and especially many moral questions that come with it, such as who's responsible if a surgery goes wrong or a self-driving car crashes. But historically, once technology consistently proves itself safer, cheaper and better, regulations will inevitably adjust. If an intelligent system can perform surgeries with much less error, proving itself 10 or 100 times safer and resulting in much fewer casualties, but someone cannot use it because we haven't figured out who's responsible, when will that become immoral? So, a few jobs might survive in the short term if we cannot determine who is responsible. But still, if you take these jobs out of the equation, the vast majority of jobs will succumb to AGI quickly, making the vast majority of humans redundant in the labor market. So, we know that AGI will arrive soon, and it will affect the majority of jobs in our economy. Then, what should we do about it?
There will be fewer and fewer jobs that a robot cannot do better. What to do about mass unemployment? This is going to be a massive social challenge. And I think ultimately we will have to have some kind of universal basic income. I don't think we're going to have a choice.
One possible solution to mass unemployment and the loss of incomes that comes with it is UBI, Universal Basic Income. Universal basic income is the idea that everyone in society, regardless of income or background, receives a fixed sum of money each month. Think for example of $1,000 each month for every adult. No conditions are attached and you're entirely free to decide how to spend the money. It might look revolutionary, but the concept is definitely not new. Historically, UBI has had supporters from the economic left and the economic right, including Milton Friedman and Martin Luther King. Both men believed that UBI could simultaneously fix economic inequalities and improve government inefficiencies. Recently, Andrew Yang popularized UBI again through his 2020 presidential campaign, in which he highlighted the increasing risk of automation-driven unemployment. His campaign led to new public discussions surrounding UBI, but unfortunately he did not succeed in winning the nomination. However, because of AI, the discourse around universal basic income is getting more and more momentum. UBI is more relevant than it's ever been, because more people are realizing that AGI will be able to perform nearly any human job. If that happens, billions of people will lose their primary source of income, and this leads to all kinds of economic and social instability. Therefore, a solution like UBI becomes necessary. And that is exactly why OpenAI, a non-profit closely tied to Sam Altman and OpenAI, has launched one of the biggest studies on universal basic income.
We have a major change to get through. And we, all of us, the people that work on technology, I think it's our responsibility, or at least we're certainly going to be held responsible by the people whose lives we change as AI rolls out.
The question that has always surrounded UBI in the past was, who will pay for this? Let's look at the United States. If you give every American citizen above the age of 18 $1,000 every month, that will cost around $2.5 trillion a year. And even then, it is still far from a livable wage. However, this all changes with the rise of AGI.
So, when politicians talk about universal basic income, it's always about cost. How can we possibly afford this? How can this ever make economic sense? And I think this is one of the stupidest arguments in the world. If the AI really does come and take all the jobs, it will do that because it can do them for free. And so the cost of a really good quality of life will go down a huge amount. Factor of 10, maybe factor of 20.
Because AI can create a lot of abundance. The labor cost with AGI is basically negligible, and therefore the costs of certain goods will fall to an incredibly low level, essentially to the costs of raw materials and energy. Economists estimate that prices could drop 10 or 20 times compared with today, making $1,000 a month after more like what is $20,000 right now. Things like universal high income make much more sense in that light. But universal basic income won't happen overnight. The government will become increasingly important as we move into the AGI era. As many people will lose their jobs and income, we cannot expect companies to take care of redistributing their wealth and giving up the earnings they have gathered with the help of AI automation. Because companies' main goal is profit maximization, not societal welfare. Expecting voluntary redistribution of wealth from these companies is unrealistic. They have very little incentive to do so. And therefore the government needs to step up. It is their responsibility to provide stability and welfare. And therefore they must regulate by redistributing economic gains fairly. This won't be easy, but the stakes are incredibly high. We could end up in an age of abundance, but only if we prepare, and societal nets are created that manage the transition into the AGI era. AGI is coming soon, and the economic change that comes with it raises a lot of philosophical questions. We might be the first generation that is going to live in a truly unique time. One might even ask if money will even be relevant in a post-AGI society. If AGI enables us to get almost everything for the cost of energy and raw materials, what function will money even have? Because in the end, money functions primarily as an exchange of scarce resources. And that is why other alternatives are also proposed, such as universal basic compute. In this case, each citizen receives guaranteed access to computational power. Instead of receiving money, people own a piece of AGI's processing power, allowing everyone to create value or products independently. This might be a far-fetched scenario, and only time will tell how everything is going to unfold exactly. However, the fact that these topics are considered seriously illustrates the enormous effect this technology will have on the economy and the value of labor. But there is an even more important question. If AGI automates our jobs in the near future, and we do succeed in finding a solution like UBI in order to tackle the problems of a changing economic order, then what? Imagine waking up tomorrow to realize your jobs and goals might not be relevant anymore, because AGI handles everything. How then would you redefine your purpose, happiness, and maybe even your identity? Throughout our entire history, humanity has always been working to survive, whether that was through hunting, farming, or by earning money through work. Surviving has always given us a purpose and a direction in our lives. But after the AGI revolution, it might all be different. This purpose is taken care of, leaving us in a void that forces us to create a new purpose. For the first time in history, our goals have not already been decided for us. We now have the opportunity to set them ourselves. Even though this existential void is frightening, it could also mean unprecedented freedom, in which we focus on creativity, community, and exploration. Intuitively, we all have a first reaction to hearing that AGI will change everything, and humans naturally resist change. However, there is a tremendous upside too. The rise of AGI can free people from doing tedious, repetitive, and dangerous work. Even in first world countries, many people still work monotonous and tough jobs and live for their time off. But that pales in comparison to second or third world countries in which the working conditions are much worse. In many developing countries, people have to work endless hours, have to do incredibly dangerous work, and child labor is still being used. It will be this group that will benefit the most from the AGI revolution. Whether it is 12-hour days in unsafe factories or mines, or just repetitive office jobs that offer no fulfillment, AGI can handle them efficiently and safely, so that humans can do whatever they truly want. By embracing change and seeing it for what it actually is, AGI might be the technology that will free us from our chains and lead us into a world in which we no longer look at GDP as our most important metric, but rather at the quality of life, fulfillment, and flourishing of humans. Nobody knows exactly how all of this will unfold. However, one thing is certain: many things will change this decade. Because, as we have seen, AGI is not something that will come in a distant future, it is quickly becoming a reality, and it will be here in a couple of years. Its impact on jobs, economies, and our purpose as human beings will be immense. But it's always important to remember that the future isn't something that happens to us, it is something we build. AGI hands us the tools to end danger and poverty, to shift from mere survival to genuine human flourishing. But tools are only as good as the hands that wield them. Today, we do face a choice. We can either automate injustice or amplify opportunity. We can cement all divides or create a shared prosperity.